Ancient Egypt: the Egyptian social structure. Ancient Egyptian civilization lasted for several thousand years. It began about 3000 BC, about 5,000 years ago. It ended in 30 BC, or 2,000 years ago, when Egypt was taken over by the Roman Empire. Ancient Egypt was a rich and powerful country. Archaeologists have dug up many clues that tell us what life was like then. Egyptian society was like a pyramid. At the top of the triangle were the gods like Ra, Osiris, and Isis. Egyptians believed that the gods ruled over the universe, and it was important to keep them happy. They could make the Nile flood, cause bad harvests, or even bring death. Pharaohs were chief lawmakers. Pharaoh was the Egyptian word for leader. The ancient Egyptians thought the pharaohs were gods, and they had total power over their people. After pharaohs died, huge stone pyramids were built as their tombs. Pharaohs were buried in chambers within the pyramids. The people of Egypt gave their rulers many responsibilities. Protection was at the top of the list. The pharaoh was in charge of the army and was the chief lawmaker. Each farmer paid taxes with grain he grew. The grain was kept in the pharaoh's warehouses and saved people from starving when harvests failed. The pharaoh had help running the country. His top official was the vizier, who made sure that taxes were collected. Scribes kept records. Scribes worked with the vizier and kept government records. Scribes were important government employees because they had a rare skill. They could read and write. Most people did not know how. Powerful nobles and priests were right below the pharaoh. Only nobles could hold government posts. Priests were responsible for making the gods happy. Gift to the gods. Nobles were very important. From pharaohs to farmers, all Egyptians gave gifts to the gods. Nobles received some of these donations and became very rich. Soldiers fought in wars in other lands. They also stopped Egyptians from rising up against their leaders. There were also long periods of peace. During those times, the soldiers supervised the farmers, farm workers, and slaves who built the pyramids and palaces. Doctors and craftspeople were in the middle class. Craftspeople made jewelry, pottery, papyrus, tools, and other useful things. Papyrus was a kind of paper. It was made from papyrus reeds. The reeds grew along the Nile River. Merchants and storekeepers sold goods to the public. Slaves and farmers were at the bottom. During war, Egypt captured prisoners and made them slaves. They became the property of the pharaoh and nobles. Slaves were forced to work on building projects. Priests and craftspeople ran schools. Peasants worked in the fields and raised animals. They made sure that canals and reservoirs were in good condition to water the fields. They also worked in the stone quarries and built the pyramids and temples. The peasants paid heavy taxes. More than half of their harvest might go to taxes. A small number of peasants moved up the ladder. Families saved money to send their sons to village schools. Priests or craftsmen ran these schools and taught them a job. Boys who learned to read and write could become scribes. Then they could get a job in the government. A farm boy could grow up to become an important government official. Then he could make much more money than in the fields.